Our first topic in this course is symbolic action and the power of ritual. By the power of ritual, I'm referring to the way in which ritual is not simply a fun activity. Rather, ritual also has social and psychological effects. It is powerful. It can impact people's ideas about themselves and their relationships with others. In other words, it can be transformative. To explore these ideas, our readings and the film will take us to Korea, Southern Africa, and the holy city of Jerusalem. Let's start with some basic terms. Rituals are replete with symbols. So, what are symbols? Symbols are a subset of signs. Signs, simply, are things that stand for other things. The meanings of signs, though, are not transparent. Not everyone reads signs in the same way. Humans learn the meaning or meanings of particular signs by virtue of participating in a culture. Among the different types of signs that exist, symbols are signs that have an arbitrary relationship to the thing that they represent. In other words, the meaning of a symbol is established by the social group. Different symbolic systems will represent the same thing using different symbols. In the example given in this image, we can see that there are different types of signs that we can use to represent water. And the symbol that is used to represent water in the English language is the word water. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner. Water. It's a funny sound, isn't it? Different languages and cultures will use different symbols to represent water. For example, agua in Spanish or Wasser in German. There is no necessary relationship between the thing, water, and the symbolic word for it, water. As with all symbols, to learn the meaning of the symbol, you need to learn it from cultural insiders. Also, many actions have symbolic meaning, such that the meaning of those actions makes sense within a particular cultural context. We can call these symbolic actions. Examples of symbolic actions are making a peace sign, thrusting a fist into the air, placing flowers on a grave, and applying holy water. The meanings of these actions make sense within a specific cultural symbolic system. Victor Turner, whose name you will come across more than once in this course, launched a line of investigation known as symbolic anthropology. Symbolic anthropology interprets rituals by identifying the symbols and the symbolic actions within rituals and decoding their meanings according to the perspective of a cultural insider. Your first assignment for this segment of the course is to read a short excerpt from David Hicks's book, Ritual and Belief, in which he gives us some basic definitions for terms that will be important in this course, including belief, ritual, myth, and symbol. Then you will read Tom Driver's chapter on transformation from his book, The Magic of Ritual. He makes an argument about the power of ritual, and he gives examples from different countries around the world, but I would like you to pay close attention to the examples he gives from South Korea and Lesotho. Lesotho is a tiny country embedded within South Africa. 3 sentences in Driver's chapter seem to really capture the essence of his argument. First, on page 172, he says, "The business of religions and their rituals, then, is to effect transformations, not only of persons' individual subjectivities, but also transformations of society and the natural world." Then, as he says on page 188, quote, "Ritual is neither a detached contemplation of the world nor a passive symbolization of it, but is the performance of an act in which people confront one kind of power with another and rehearse their own future." Finally, on page 189, he says, quote, "We might say that ritual embodies the principle of growth or dynamic process through which a society transcends itself, praising, evaluating, rebuking, and remolding life as it is presently lived." We might summarize these sentences by saying that rituals actually transform the way that people think about themselves, society, and the natural world, and they do so because they oblige people to perform symbolic actions that directly represent the idealized self and idealized social world. He goes one step further by suggesting that rituals don't simply affect the way people think, but can also affect the way they behave. In rituals, people rehearse idealized kinds of social relationships, and therefore rituals contain within them the seeds of social transformation. This is the magic of ritual to which the title of his book refers. So, as you are reading, aim to understand those 3 sentences and how Driver illustrates those ideas with examples from specific rituals. Don't be misled by the use of the term magic in Driver's chapter. At times he is speaking about magic in the traditional sense of how people will try to harness spiritual forces through spells in order to achieve certain practical aims. At other times, though, he is talking about the magic of ritual in a metaphorical sense, in the way that ritual often transforms participants' views of themselves and others and their attitudes, even in ways that the participants may not intend or realize. In other words, the transformation may happen without the conscious awareness of the ritual participants. Then, later in the week, you will assess Driver's arguments by discerning whether evidence in support of them can be found in one specific set of rituals. You will watch the film Jerusalem from the Sacred Journeys series. In it, Jews and Christians from the United States embark on ritual pilgrimages to the holy city of Jerusalem. As you are watching, pay attention to 3 main things. 1. What symbolic actions are the pilgrims performing? What do key symbols mean, and what are the intended meanings of the different symbolic actions? For example, some symbolic actions you might pick up on are bowing, praying, walking along certain roads, touching religious objects, and entering sacred spaces. 2. What transformations are apparent in the pilgrims? What did they identify as the impact of the pilgrimage on them? 3. Then put those 2 parts together. Did the symbolic actions the pilgrims performed play a key role in their transformation? So, put differently, did the film provide any evidence in support of Driver's claim that rituals can transform individual subjectivities and social relationships? As you are watching the film, be sure to have the closed captioning turned on. Click the CC button at the bottom right-hand corner of the video. I recommend that everyone watch all of the films with captions on because the captions aid in your understanding. Take notes while watching our films because taking notes helps you focus your attention and remember important information afterward.